All right, welcome back for another week of Goalhorns and Fight Songs. This is our fourth week together. I'm your host, Wes, and that is my co-host, Mike.
How's it going?
It's going. I won't lie, I did not catch very much of anything this weekend. I had a busy weekend with life stuff and not hockey stuff, so mildly unprepared for today.
Uh, I'm the same way. Did not get to catch either of the games. I was out in South Dakota dealing with personal stuff. So we'll see how this goes.
I do know that it was a pretty big weekend across the NCHC, and I think we performed pretty well outside of a couple instances. There were some splits, there was some controversy, there were some good times had by some people, some bad times had by other people. It was a typical college hockey weekend, I would say.
Yeah, there's always going to be the haves and the have-nots, and then we'll see what happens from night to night in college hockey. So I think it's starting to feel more like college hockey season.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit chillier in the day, which I enjoy. Feels more like that fall, and it feels like a real fall this year. Last year didn't quite feel like a real fall. Plus, we had to wait till December before we actually got into the season. So the fact that we're
Yeah,
getting back to normal timelines, I think, is good.
still 70s in the Twin Cities. So fall. We'll see.
All right. Where do we want to start this weekend? I guess we could start with the icebreaker tournament.
Yeah, I think we can start with our teams. Icebreaker tournament, Mankato, Providence, Michigan, and UMD. Uh, didn't really pay attention to the scores of the games other than UMD. Uh, UMD played Michigan first, and we talked about this last week. And I thought UMD was going to pull off a 1-goal win just based off of their experience and everybody coming back. You warned me against Michigan and all the talent that they had. You were right. It was a whooping that was put on UMD. 5-1 Michigan. Uh, not even close. I was at a wedding and checking the score and showed my girlfriend, showed her dad, both huge UMD fans as well, and might have ruined the night a little bit seeing that score. And Mankato was also able to pull off the win against Providence. And then in the third place game, quote unquote, UMD was able to pull off a win against Providence. And then I don't even know who actually won that. I think I saw a picture of Michigan with a trophy. A lot of UMD fans in the stands flipping them off and everything because they had beat us. So I think Michigan won the whole thing. Uh, but the one highlight, and we can get to this later, was first goal for James of the Bulldogs off of feed from Quinn Olson. That was absolutely unreal, and I know I sent you the link to that video, and we talked about it last night.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Not even looking, but looked like it went between his legs. Found the open player who went. The puck looked like it went past another player to the guy. I don't know who he's intending to pass it to, but it was ridiculous, and it found the back of the net, and that's all that matters, really.
Yeah, he toe dragged behind us. Well, I guess technically in front of a sliding defender. Did the toe drag, spun between the legs with his back turned to his teammates, and it went to James, the second guy, and he buried it in the net. Not sure how he did it. I don't want to know how. I don't need to know why. All I know is it was very impressive and ended up being the top play of the week for the NCHC, which it deserved to be.
Yeah, definitely. I will say the one thing about being right about Michigan is I did see that there was a major penalty that kind of opened the door for Michigan to take advantage of. And that's one of those situations where I don't. If you can take advantage of a major penalty, and Michigan's clearly a team that can, they kind of always have been. It kind of skews the results a little bit. So I don't want to say that it would have been a clear wash either way. I know that penalty did play a major role in Michigan being able to kind of jump out and take advantage and put things in their corner and kind of push the pace of the game. But I think it would have been a different result if Duluth had been able to avoid that kind of situation.
And even if you, whether it's your team or, well, I guess your team, if you're getting the advantage of a major penalty, if you can even score one, that puts the other team at a disadvantage. Now, if they're able to kill off the whole 5 minutes, they're going to get a huge boost in energy. But if you can at least get one, then that momentum is not going to swing a major way. And I don't know if Michigan got a power play go off of that or not, but I'm going to guess they did. And especially with a team as talented as Michigan, with how many high-end draft picks that they have on that team.
Yeah, it's definitely a team you don't want to give extra opportunities to, or put yourself shorthanded for any length of time, whether it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes. God forbid, a 10-minute game misconduct because someone got a little bit too wrapped up in their emotions. But it's going to be one of those teams that I think the expectations are so high for them that every week, they're going to get the best out of anybody. So there's a target on their back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the team that has to perform every single night in and night out at the ultimate level. Because, like I said, everyone's going to be gunning for them. They're all going to want to show, like, hey, you guys might have been top picks, but we deserve to be on the ice just the same as you. And we're going to show you that we can compete just the same as you can and those kinds of things. So,
yeah, and I think they're going to feel that pressure now in the non-conference schedule, and then in the tournaments. They're not going to feel it as much in Big Ten play because, no offense to the Big Ten, but they're not quite at the level of an NCHC, a Hockey East. They're not up to the top level outside of what Minnesota has right now. Because the Gophers are a good team. It's Michigan and Minnesota in the Big Ten, and then the rest are kind of a little bit lower tier. So I don't think they'll feel as much pressure in conference play just because they know that they're not playing the top teams in the country.
yeah. And I do know that they did move up to number 1 in the most current rankings. So, and Western, without playing a week, moved up to, I believe, 16 in one and 17 in the other. So it's kind of weird, like where they're at.
And UMD moved down one spot with the split. They moved from 5th to 6th, if I remember correctly, which is fair. I mean, you lose one, you win one, and you're playing two different teams. I'm not going to complain about that. If they would have won the whole icebreaker, I probably would have said, "Oh, you could put them as high as 3rd,
Right.
maybe 2nd," but they didn't. So, and they lost to now the current top team in the country. So losing one spot makes sense. I could keep them at 5th or have them lose one spot. I'm not going to complain about anything.
Let's see. I can't find the rest of the Friday schedule, but I can get all of Saturday. So I guess we'll jump into Saturday's results. And we'll save the most controversial for the last one, I think.
Yeah.
Omaha, I believe, continued their undefeated streak. I believe they're undefeated at the start of the season. They defeated Alaska Fairbanks 5-1. And that was actually a Sunday game, the rare Sunday appearance. Denver blanked the Air Force in an 8-0 contest. Minnesota Duluth splits the weekend, takes home the third place game with a score of 3-2 over Providence. Another good team coming from the East, a team that was not too far removed from a national title. Bemidji State upset. I don't know if you want to call it an upset. I guess you could upset North Dakota 4-3, which we kind in overtime. And Michigan State beat Miami 2-1 on Saturday. Those are old CCHA rivals going at it once again. And Colorado College earned a tie with Union College at 3 apiece. And Minnesota defeats St. Cloud in controversial manner in overtime, 4-3. So any of those games stand out that you want to kind of give our opinions on that we don't have much of because none of us watched any of these games?
Well, I can go back to Friday because I have NCHC up on my phone. Union defeated Colorado College on Friday 2-1. North Dakota won 4-3. St. Cloud 2-1. Omaha 3-2 in overtime over Fairbanks. 4-1 Denver over Air Force. Those were all of the Friday games. The one, just because there was somebody on Twitter commenting over the controversy that was the St. Cloud Minnesota game on Saturday. They said North Dakota was gonna win the Penrose Cup, but they decided that they were gonna call it the Penne Rosa Cup. They were like, North Dakota's winning it this year, calling it right now. Them losing to Bemidji State, one of the games, is a little bit of a telltale sign. I know UMD, they had close games. They were able to sweep Bemidji. And Bemidji they're a good team, but actually, I think it's Driscoll. He transferred over to North Dakota from Bemidji. And they were trying to say, well, you were saying Bemidji was a bad team, but this goalie came over here. Well, so you have one of the top goalies in the nation, and you split with Bemidji, and they lost one of the top goalies in the nation. It kind of is a little bit of a telltale sign of where you're going to finish in the year. That one stands out just a little bit to me because of our discussion in the preseason rankings and where we had North Dakota finishing
right
for the Penrose Cup.
Yeah, that one seemed a little bit surprising. I mean, I think them splitting, kind of takes some of the sting away from it. I think there's still a team that's this is gonna be a growing year for North Dakota, and I don't necessarily put too much into thinking they're gonna be terrible. I don't think you can think that about really any team in the NCHC. Someone can come out of nowhere and surprise you. And in the playoffs, it's all 8 teams competing for the automatic spot. So really any team 1 through 8 could take that automatic bid into the big tournament.
Yeah, and the tournament is what the conference tournament is what counts for the automatic bid. But I was looking earlier today at past NCHC tournaments, and I think it was either 2014 or 2015. It was 5 and 6 playing in the semifinal rounds. It was Western had beat UMD, and I can't remember who Western had played, but it goes the same thing every year. Now maybe the 1 versus 8 could be a little more of a guarantee, but 2 through 7, whoever plays each other, it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, for sure. So I did have it wrong. Omaha is not undefeated on the year, but they are 5-1 to start the year, which I think is kind of surprising. But taking that what you will, the teams they split with Lake Superior State to start the season, and then they have swept Maine and Alaska on back-to-back weekends, and they have Long Island coming up this next weekend. So, kind of seems like an easier start to the year, but anytime you can pick up a win or a sweep is still good for the team.
And I don't know a lot about Maine. I know early 2000s they were a very, very solid team. I don't know what they've done recently. Um, Fairbanks, they are what they are. I think they've had one NCAA tournament appearance, and they lost in a close game. But it's kind of an easy start to the year, and that same thing with North Dakota. They swept Niagara. It's like, okay, Niagara.
Yeah, we definitely did talk about that in our first episode, second episode, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. And with Long Island coming up, Long Island, I think they're a fairly new program.
Yeah, they've not been around very long.
Yeah, I think they're the Sharks.
Yep.
Yeah, and they've probably only been around about 3 years, maybe. So it kind of is. It's kind of like football or basketball. You're getting your feet under you, seeing what you have as far as players, and then you get into it. And I think that's fair for the middle to lower echelon teams of the NCHC, not discounting them. But if you're not a St. Cloud, a UMD, a Denver, what should be North Dakota, you can schedule those teams, but those top 4 teams historically, you should be playing the best of the best, like UMD has, like St. Cloud has. Even Western has been. You guys have had a tough schedule before you get into conference.
Yeah, we had Fair State to start the year, and we get Michigan this weekend in home to home or in a home and home series. Should be a really good series. It's 2 teams that know each other. 2 schools that know each other. They used to be in the same conference. We've competed hard against Michigan for years, and even though Michigan's the number 1 team coming in, Western's a team that has beaten number 1 ranked teams. They've beaten top 5 ranked teams when they're not ranked. So it's definitely a series that they're capable of getting up for. It's a series that they're capable of winning. So I think worst case scenario, you lose both, but you're losing to the number 1 team. I think as long as they're competitive, there's something that could be said for that. But I'd like to say if we have to lose one, I'd like it to be Friday in their arena and then come back and win in our arena. And our arena is going to be nuts on Saturday.
And I do think there's something to be said about that icebreaker tournament. Yes, it was in Duluth. Yes, it was technically a home game for us, but you have the Mankato fans that have come up. You have the Providence fans that may have traveled. You have the Michigan fans that may have traveled. It's not technically quite a home game for the Dogs. So I think the Lunatics are going to be going crazy, and Michigan might have a tough time, especially when it's an interstate game, and it kind of, they view themselves as big brother and Western's just little brother. Those players are going to get up and be like, hey, you know what? We don't care. We're going to beat you and show you that we're better than you.
Yeah, and I did see somewhere, I think it might have been Western's coach's press conference. I did watch that this week. And they were kind of comparing the Western Michigan series coming up to the game that Duluth had with Western or with U of M, and that U of M is going to be this young team, a lot of talent, and Duluth and Western are both more experienced teams. They're relying on senior leadership, um, and that kind of thing. So the balance of that matchup with they've already seen with Duluth, they're going to see again this weekend, but it's going to be two games and not just one.
Yeah, and I think the defensive mentality, it's going to have to be for Western. Okay, they scored one. Like they're going to get theirs, but we have to get ours. We just have to limit what they're going to get and be super sound. And I wish I would have been able to watch the game on Friday, just so I could see how UMD played, because it could have been defensive breakdowns or it could have been Michigan was just that good. I don't really know, so I can't quite comment on that in a sense. But I think that would be a really fun series to watch.
Yeah, it's going to come down to how Western wants to play. Western's a team that can outwork the other team if they want to, and I think that's going to be a big proponent of this game. Is you have to get to the areas. You gotta, if the puck's up against the board, you got to work to dig it out. You got to try and keep the puck in the offensive zone, which they were really good at doing against Ferris in the first series. There was plenty of times where they actually got like a complete line change while still maintaining offensive zone pressure, and that's something you got to do against the top rated teams in the country if you want any chance at winning. The best defense is a good offense, and if we can keep that offensive pressure up and keep throwing pucks on net, I think that they'll be able to get a couple behind the goalie and just try and limit as best you can their opportunities and make sure that we're playing a clean game, because they're going to take advantage of any power play, and you don't want to give too many power plays. We gave up 8 power plays last series. Granted, we killed them all, but being down a man for 16 minutes at a minimum through 2 games is not where you want to be.
Um, the other series that I liked was Colorado College, at least getting a tie against Union. That that one, Union, they've, from what I know of them, they're always solid, if not pretty good. I know they're not too far removed from Frozen Four appearance, and for Colorado College being as young as they are and having the new arena to, now granted they were away, but to get a tie on the road against Union, I think that bodes well for them. I think that that'll give them some confidence going forward, being like, hey, we might be young, we might lose some games, but we can compete with anybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm kind of like, I exist in this weird place when I go to games, and maybe it's because I'm a Detroit fan for most of my sports. Throughout, like, until the end of the game, I don't really care what the score is, or like if I know we're gonna win or I know we're gonna lose. Like before I get there, I want to see my team compete. I want to see effort out there. I don't want to see a team that's kind of lacklustered about things, or you can kind of tell that coaches' decisions aren't made with 100% attention to detail, or things like that, and the game kind of gets away, and just becomes a boring game to watch. Like if it's 0-0 10 minutes into the third and both teams are battling and there's like 5 shots on net, like that's fine for me. I don't care, but give me the compete, give me the work. Don't make it a 10-0 game where you're basically letting in passes because you just don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, I love the compete level. I would say my favorite hockey game that I've ever been to was a Wild playoff game, and they were playing Colorado, and it was 0-0 going into overtime. I was so nervous the whole time, like, because you want your team to win and whatever. But the battle level and the fact that it was 0-0 was amazing, and it was so fun. And each team competing, college hockey, NHL, whatever it is, when those two teams are battling, it just makes it for a much better game as opposed to like a North Dakota Niagara where, all right, okay, we know we're going to win. We're just going to kind of mail it in.
Yeah, no, 100%. And even the Lunatics kind of like they pay enough attention to know like, okay, we're probably not going to win this game, but if our team's competing, they're still going to cheer for big hits or things that are happening in the game. Like if you get a good clear on a the defense is struggling, but they finally get the puck out of the net. Like they pay enough attention to kind of pick up on those things too. So
And you feel like when you're in the student section, you feel like if you cheer loud enough for the little things, you can have an impact on what the team does on the ice. Like, hey, you got that clear. Perfect. We're going to pump you up, and then you can maybe swing the momentum in favor of your team because the guys on the bench are going to get pumped up. I don't know. I never played past squirts, but it maybe if we get to talk to one of the guys that actually has played in the college level, they can tell us how the crowd affects them, and if those little differences, you know, you killed a penalty, you cleared that puck, you had a big hit. If that pumps the guys up on the bench, like, hey, we're in this, we gotta go, we gotta get it, we can score, we can beat these guys.
yeah, it's always interesting like when you see some games like or they pull the goalie, they change goalies out. Like what does that actually do for the guys on the ice? And it seems to do something. I have no idea what it does, but
Yeah, I don't know, and I could ask my brother because he played varsity, but he was a goalie, so I don't know. They're a little weird, little little iffy to talk to sometimes.
let's see who does North Dakota play this weekend.
I haven't even looked at that.
They just had it.
I know UMD has a home and home against the Gophers,
That should
and
be a,
that should be a good series.
that should be a pretty good series. Yeah.
And there's a lot of animosity between the two. It, uh,
North Dakota
North
is
Dakota.
at Quinnipiac.
Yeah.
Another big, strong Hockey East school. Again, not too far removed from either a Frozen Four finals appearance or Frozen Four appearance. Either way, like I know that they were up there pretty recently too. So
Mm-hmm.
um, definitely some big time clashes here to start the season and before we get to conference play.
Yeah, they're uh, a lot of the NCHC schools. They're going for it and saying, "Hey, this is what we have. We're going to put it against the best of the country." And I think a lot of the other conferences are saying, "Okay, you've won. What was it 4 of the last 5, 5 out of the last 6
So
national titles?"
I want to say 4 of the last 5.
It this is what we got. We want to put our best against the best in the nation to show what we have. So it's making for a lot of fun games. And I know the UMD Minnesota series. I went a couple years ago when it was down here, and unfortunately, Minnesota kicked the crap out of us. It was not a close game, but then UMD won the next night, and split the series. But there is that animosity because they're both University of Minnesota. So the one of the chants that the Gopher fans has is Gopher rejects for the UMD players, and that fires them up and gets them to play better, and it fires the fans up, and It's a whole battle between Minnesotans, the northern half, where I'm from, the Hardy Miners versus the Twin Cities people. And I'll be politically incorrect and say that we call them Cityots, even though I guess I would qualify as a Cityot now, even though I am from up north. I've lived down here long enough, so it makes it so much fun, those interstate rivalries.
Oh yeah, there's some of the better games, and like I think there's something to being able to play one game here, one game there. Like that's kind of brings a cool flavor to the college ranks. You know, I think um, being away on a whole weekend, like when it's constantly like a weekend after weekend type of thing, it can get kind of to be kind of a grind to be on the road weekend after weekend. Um, which Omaha will have to worry about here in the not too distant future because I know they have who did we say? We said Long Island at home
Yep.
this weekend, and then I think they go on the road because they haven't been on the road yet. Oh no, it looks like they have Miami, and then maybe they, yep, then they start
Yeah.
going out on the road. But yeah, they started the season with a lot of home games, a lot of home cooking for them boys, which
Yeah.
might contribute to the fact that they're 5-1 right now.
Yeah, and they go on the road to St. Cloud, their first road series, and that's going to be a tough place to play. And I've been there when it is packed, and those uh those St. Cloud fans, they are rowdy. They get into the game and they will let you know if you screw up, and they will let you know when St. Cloud scores. Uh, it is a very hostile environment to play in. So if you've been at home for this long, that's going to be a rude awakening for especially for the freshmen who have not played in that environment before.
We'll talk more about that when we get to that week, but I just wanted to look ahead a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
see when Omaha will actually have to worry about that kind of thing. This week they have Long Island, which we just talked about. We don't
Yeah.
know too much about that program just yet. Still kind of new, relatively new. They do have a pretty nice color scheme. I do kind of like it. So we talked about Western versus U of M. That's going to be a big time series. I think we talked a little bit about Duluth versus Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Quinnipiac, North Dakota. We did talk about Wisconsin and St. Cloud.
I think St. Cloud takes care of business there. I
I honestly don't know too much about Wisconsin. I think they were pretty good last year, weren't they? They seem to kind of fly under the radar. Like they get lost between Minnesota and Michigan in the Big Ten. Like for whatever reason, they just don't seem to make a lot of noises, or as much noise as those two do.
I think Wisconsin is solid. I don't know a whole lot about them either, just because I don't pay attention to the Big Ten. But they're usually pretty solid. I just think St. Cloud takes care of business. I don't foresee St. Cloud having any issues.
Yeah, the way St. Cloud's been playing, and they're gonna come back. I think they're gonna come back a little angry on Friday night after the way Saturday ended.
Just just a little bit.
And then not only the way that Saturday ended, which I guess we can talk about because we didn't really talk about too much. Um, with the controversial call or no call, I guess you should say. Uh, but then also kind of being called out by the coach of the Gophers to some regard, which I believe he walked back his statement a little bit since then too. So it's a weird thing. Like you watch the play, and I listened to someone else kind of talk about it, and they were trying to see or figure out from the side where the camera's facing, you can see a lot more than maybe if you're that referee behind the play. Like, what does it look like to him? You know, what is he actually seeing? Um, so you know, it's an interesting play to not have watched it live and only watch the replay. You know, I don't want to really make an opinion on what I would have done in that situation because I don't have all of the angles. I won't have all of the angles. I don't have the real time look of it. And I'm not going to speculate one way or the other whether or not the St. Cloud player did or didn't dive. Like it seems like it would be a difficult position to do that kind of thing in, but I don't know that it's 100% outside the realm of possibilities. So the situation is what it is. You got to play to the whistle. I will say that the replay did show the kid from Minnesota kind of thinks he did something that he shouldn't have done because he kind of stops and waits to see what's going to happen and then goes, oh, I guess we're not stopping it, and goes to get the puck. So
Yeah, I've had the luxury of hearing both broadcasts, Gophers and the St. Cloud, and both sides said the ref blew the call. Now the Gophers broadcaster, he was happy that they won, but right after he goes, and the ref just blew the call. He completely admitted that the ref blew the call. I understand the point of where the ref was, but for as far as the jersey was pulled, I don't see how you can't call that and how you missed it, especially being right there. Um, I did ref for a few years, and I will admit you do miss things. I've been yelled at plenty of times by coaches and parents and players. I've even been yelled at by my own brother, and I told him to shut up because I was the ref. But it that one you can't miss, and and you'll see a lot of the people on Twitter and everything. Well, they would have never hauled me down. That was a blatant dive. Well, you're not playing the game.
yeah, and honestly, the ref's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If he misses the call, oh, you're an idiot. You missed the call. If he makes the call, what'd you call that for? You didn't call that in the first period. It's a situation where you got to kind of take it worth a grain of salt at some point. Like, yeah, it got missed. Yeah, it sucks that you lost. Kind of move on type of thing. And then you have one fan group saying, oh well, you missed the hook, and then you got another fan group saying, oh well, it was an embellishment anyway, so it would have been one apiece. So call both, call neither. The situation is what it is.
And that was Motzko's reaction to it was, well, if you're going to call one, you got to call the dive on it. He blatantly dove, and I didn't see him go back on it. But for St. Cloud, Mark Parrish, who played at St. Cloud State, played in the NHL for 37 different teams, does the Power Trip morning show down here. He was doing the broadcasting. He does stuff for the Wild, but he kind of lost his mind on the broadcast. And then after it happened and they were talking about it, he said, the refs, they have a tough job and they do a great job. They just missed this one. But he acknowledged it is a tough job. And the speed at which these guys play at the high level of Division I hockey, it's not like you're reffing peewees. It's not like you're reffing bantams or high school, in Michigan or Minnesota, up in different parts where it's smaller. These are the best of the best in college hockey, and that speed is ridiculous. So if you're going to miss one, you're going to miss one. I don't want to put full blame on the ref, but he did miss it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely missed something. And even the NCHC, who I believe it was an NCHC ref, because St. Cloud was the home team for Saturday.
Yes, they were.
Even really the conference doesn't kind of come out and say clear cut one way or the other what the penalty that should have been called was. Again, I have the statement brought up. The statement is, I'll read it verbatim. The National Collegiate Hockey Conference has determined a minor penalty or penalties should have been issued on the sequence immediately leading up to the game-winning goal in overtime during the University of Minnesota St. Cloud State contest on Saturday, October 16th. NCAA ice hockey rules and interpretations do not allow for judgment calls of minor penalties to be reviewed through the video replay criteria. Disciplinary action for any game official will be handled internally by the conference office. So in that paragraph, they're saying that yes, something should have been called, maybe even one on both sides, but we don't really have the ability to go look at it, and we're not going to tell you definitely what it was that should have been called. Like, I don't like the comment from the conference in that regard. Either give me a clear definition of what was missed, or just don't say anything at all and just say we blew it. Like, it's so vague in what it's trying to describe that it lets each fan base kind of continue this narrative of, oh, well, it was this, or it was this, or it was both, or it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like that part of the statement. And then they also kind of pass blame a little bit. The NCHC also has a policy that outlines successful conduct and behavior for all parties taking part in a game. The actions of some fans within the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center at the conclusion of the contest were unacceptable under any circumstance and inconsistent with our mission, vision, and shared values. Endangering student athletes, coaches, staff, officials, and other fans by projecting objects onto the field of play will not be tolerated. The conference will conduct a review of related policies with all member institutions to avoid these incidents in the future. You know, that's just general statement that they have to make anytime something's thrown on the ice. And honestly, throwing things at any point has never made sense to me in any situation, because all you're going to do is you're going to end up hitting someone that you didn't mean to hit, whether it's your own coach, your own players, you know, a kid who had nothing to do with the situation and is just celebrating with his team because they were on the winning side. Like, it's such a silly reaction in my mind.
Yeah, and I have two parts to this. First of all, yes, I agree that they should have said we blew it. Like, they're like given some sort of definitive answer as to what they missed, what they thought it was, because it was their referees. Not saying, well, penalties
Yeah.
will handle internally. That to me, it doesn't explain what it should have been. The NHL, not that they do a great job, but they do a better job in explaining what it should have been. The other part is, why on earth throw things on the ice? Yeah, you're upset. And a little side note, I saw a video from this weekend of a Vikings fan fighting a Panthers fan after the football game. It is a game, people. You can be upset. I've been there. I've been upset with my team. I've been upset with the refs. I've been upset with everything under the sun. But it's a game.
It's a game you're not physically participating in. And,
right.
And you know, I'm one of those fans who will say, oh, we won this weekend, or we're going to the title game. Like, I'll use we all day long. But at the end of the day, I know I'm not on that field. I know my emotions are not necessarily on the same level as the people in that game who are literally sweating, trying to get through this thing and putting everything they got into it because it's trying to lead them somewhere. But at the same time, I don't have as much invested in it as they do. I don't need to fight some random stranger for what comes to me liking something, or watching something, watching somebody else do a thing.
It's okay, and I use we all the time too. We lost, we won. It's because I'm invested in my team. So I think that's why we both use we, is because we're so invested in our teams. But okay, we lost. Good game. You know, friendly trash talk back and forth is fine, but as soon as the game is done, good game.
Yeah.
Your team played better, or you know, we screwed that one up, but you won. Whatever the case may be, the refs blew it, this, that, whatever. The refs are still humans too. They are out there. Yes, they're getting paid to do this, but if we don't have them, we don't have a game. And you can be mad at them all you want, but to potentially cause physical harm to someone because they missed a call, I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't either. And there's been some egregious calls where I'm still not like, I might be upset with the ref in the moment, but not enough to like follow him to his car and try and yell at him, or like, you know, make sure I get his attention at some point and make a actual threat or throw something at him. Like, it's just, there's no place for that in any aspect of life.
Yeah, at any level, in any aspect. And
And
the
I
sad part is you see it in youth sports, and it's the people that do it in youth sports, they do it at high school and college and the pros, and then their kids learn it. It's like, hi.
well, I see. I mean, I see the same stuff in a bar. Like, just because you're at a bar where you're able to drink does not mean you're allowed to be an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. It's still somebody's place of business. Somebody still owns it. Somebody still has a job to do. Like, I don't get where, yes, you paid for a ticket, but you realize that paying for a ticket is agreeing to a contract. Like, it literally states that on the back of the ticket. By purchasing this contract or this ticket, you're agreeing to these terms. And if you're unable to do that, don't go. Watch it from home. Like,
Yeah, and
it's not an excuse to just be a dick.
as an official, boo me all you want. Like, as a person, boo me all you want. You might not like it, and I know my dad. He said it perfectly. No matter what call you make, half the people are gonna hate you, half the people are gonna love you. That's the life of an official. But boo me all you want. I don't care. I know I made the right call. If I missed it, I'm sorry. There's no need to assault the referees and throw stuff at them.
No. And then to finish up the statement from the conference, although it is not and will not become conference protocol to provide public comment on judgment calls made by game officials, the statement is being issued due to the significant impact on the game's outcome, along with the dangerous aftermath, NCHC Commissioner Josh Fenton said. And that's a quote, or the tweet is on at the NCHC's official Twitter page. So if anybody wants to go back and look at it, read it for themselves, that's where they can find it. That's where I found it. And even this last paragraph, like the whole statement in and of itself is like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weirdly written. It's weirdly stated. It's weirdly provided.
It feels forced. It feels like, well, we got to say something.
And it's basically what they said too. Like at the very end of it, like, we're not going to do this regularly. We're only doing it, one, because it happened right at the end of the game, and two, because a group of jackasses started throwing shit. Like, yeah, I get the point where you and it said it literally every game. Please do not. Please refrain from throwing things on the field of play at any time.
Things or people at the on the field of play.
Yeah, if it's found out to be you, you'll be escorted from the building. You'll be removed and subject to penalty of law or whatever they say. So I mean, they say it every game. They had to issue that part of the statement here. The first part was extraordinarily vague as far as what rules they were really discussing. And then they literally said, well, we're not going to do this very often, but we have to do it this time because it was near the end of the game and jackasses threw shit. So,
and the last thing I'll say about this is the people who did it, you are ruining the experience for everyone else. You may be so upset that you feel the need to throw things on the ice and at the officials, but guess what? You have ruined at least the next year. Like the rest of the season, if not the next season, for everybody. Because, the people that want to have beers, guess what? No more beers. The waters, we have to take the tops off. We have to do this. Like, there's so many things that they have ruined for the families that went to the game.
Yeah.
Like, the kid wants a bottle of pop. Well, sorry, we can't do this. We can't do that. We have to do that. They need to get over themselves and realize, yes, the ref missed the call. I know it's Minnesota and it's little brother syndrome. I get it with being a UMD fan. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to matter. And in the smaller scheme, it doesn't even matter for conference play.
No.
Like it's not going to make a difference. You lost one game to Minnesota. It's not going to make a difference in your at-large bid situation because the Gophers are going to be good anyway.
Yeah, and the team just has to make sure that they don't take the loss twice. Don't take the loss on the day of the game and then don't hold on to it long enough for it to affect your next game. Like, just get after it.
Yeah, and I don't think St. Cloud will. I don't think the players will. They're a talented enough group. They're an experienced enough group. Um,
They're
they'll
well
be able
coached
to move
enough.
on. Yeah, Brett Larson is he's a very very good coach.
And he has good, assistant coaches or associate coaches, whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
them. Dave Shayak, who is a longtime Western associate coach, is over there now in his second, third year, something like that. So, he definitely knows how to make sure that a team can recover and respond and play with the grit that they need. So, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine too. And I don't like St. Cloud, but I that's because they're a conference rival. I respect them and everything that they do and their coaching staff because they are a very good team, and that's the difference. You might not like them, but you got to respect them.
Yeah. Let's see. We did not talk about Bowling Green versus Miami yet. There's a former CCHA matchup yet again coming in non-conference play. Uh, that is a home and home series as well. So they will be in Oxford, Ohio on Friday night and over to Bowling Green for Saturday's game. That should be a pretty solid matchup. Um, I'm pretty sure Miami's current coach is Bowling Green's former coach.
I will look that up.
After Rico Blasi was released by Miami, I think they went and got Bowling Green's coach, who has ties to Miami, I believe, either a former player or a former coach from before going to Bowling Green.
Um, yes, he was a 9-year head coach at Bowling Green.
So he definitely knows the system over there. There might even be some guys that he recruited that are still on that team that he knows pretty well and knows the strengths and weaknesses of. So
Yeah, more than likely he does because he 2019 was the end year, and then he went to Miami. So more than likely he does know some of the guys, and can provide some scouting on them because they're going to be senior leaders, junior and senior leaders, and say, well, this is what they're going to do. These are their tendencies. This is why I recruited them. Um, look for this. Look for that.
and Bowling Green does have a tendency of being a very tough team, um, and playing very solid. Back when they were in the CCHA with Western and they had Andrew Hammond in net, it was a grind every weekend every time he had to play Bowling Green like that. Andrew Hammond was a dude. Like, I don't understand him. He was a brick wall more often than not, and you had to beat him to beat that team. And he just made Bowling Green like at least 5 times better than they would have been without him.
And now he's down in Iowa on the Wild,
Yeah,
which
He's had an
I
unfortunate
apologize
pro
if I
career.
keep looking up because I got the Wild game on the TV. So
No, I'm checking scores too, so it's fine. Um, then Denver versus Providence.
I think that should be a good game.
That's a solid East West matchup there.
Hmm.
That's a game that generally you only get in tournament time. Both teams not too far removed from Final Four appearances. Uh, Even a couple national titles between the two in the last few years.
Last 5 6 years, well, probably 7 years, but yeah, Denver, they're for throwing in the COVID year, 5 years removed because it was UMass, COVID, UMD, Denver, and Denver had beat UMD in Chicago
Yep.
for the national title.
Yeah, and
Which,
Providence was a few years before that. So
yeah, man, that was a letdown of a year. Drove
uh,
all the way to Chicago, and then Denver just crushes my hopes and dreams.
I think Denver is good at crushing hopes and dreams. Um, and then Colorado College and Boston College. It does not seem like Colorado College has given themselves an easy beginning to the season, but I think that it's something that'll help that team come together and make them a stronger team on the backside of the season. So good for them. Good for them for
I,
taking a challenge and following through with it and stepping up and giving yourself something to compete for.
that's one thing that I think separates college hockey from the other Division One sports is the big Power Five conferences they schedule the FCS teams in football, or they as they call the powder puffs, and in hockey, and the lower conferences, they're like, yeah, we know we're gonna get beat, maybe we'll get lucky and win. It'll bring us together, but it's not going to give us that confidence moving forward. Like, we got blown out, whatever. Hockey, I feel like a CC playing a BC, it's going to bring the team together, and that can make them dangerous. And saying, okay, we're this is where they're at, this is where we're at, this is what we need to fix because we're playing one of the top teams in the nation. All of a sudden, they end up with a fourth seed in the NCHC, and it's like, where did that come from? Because that's not what anybody expected. So I think hockey is definitely different in that sense because there are only 53 teams in the nation.
For Division One, I believe there's 63.
63. That is off by 10.
I know at one
And then
point.
I do know there that are coming in.
Yeah. I only know that because I know at one point it was 59, and I believe we've added 4 teams since then. So at least 3 or 4. Arizona State, Penn State, Long Island,
LIU,
and St. Thomas. So yeah, 4. So 63.
and then I know Augustana in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I think they broke ground or they did something.
Yeah, they're trying to get hockey going over there
to make it official for a Division One program. And then I was looking at this today. Middle Tennessee, or no, not Middle Tennessee. Tennessee State. They're trying to become the first historically black college to get Division One hockey with the help of the Predators, which I think is absolutely awesome. To add even more teams,
right?
And especially a team in Tennessee.
It looks like Colorado College is in some kind of tournament or like thing because it has them listed as playing Northeastern on the 23rd. So they have 2 different opponents this week.
I wonder if they're in the. No, that wouldn't be the Bean Pot, would it?
I have no idea. And like I said, they're actually listed as having 2 different opponents. It's not a winner of type situation. So
Oh, I'm looking up the bean pot right now.
Some kind of classic or display or show or whatever you want to call it. Kind of what the GLI has become, which is extraordinarily disappointing.
The bean pot won't take place until 2022. I didn't quite know when they held that. I just know it's a big deal out east.
Yeah, I think that's more. I think that's tournament style though, isn't it? Or is it just
That's
like a
what I
little
thought.
showcase thing?
I thought it was more tournament style.
All right. I think that will basically wrap it up. That'll cover everything. We'll actually get to watch some of the games this weekend, so next week's show will hopefully be a little bit more coherent with first-hand knowledge of games as opposed to sometimes third-hand knowledge through Twitter. And hopefully we will see less dramatics out there.
Hopefully the conference comes through and gives us a good showing again like they did last week.
Yeah. So once again, anybody who happens to stumble upon this, I appreciate you giving it a listen. Links will be in the description when this is up on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, follow the show on Twitter, and send us questions, messages, whatever. And we will talk at you again later. Bye-bye.